Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg, and this is Hanging with Mangg, the weekly show where I ramble on for about an hour, and for some reason people watch. Today we're playing Dark Souls 1 on PC. This is with the Prepare to Die Again mod, as well as the Rekindled Edition mod. So it, combination of those two sort of changes up all sorts of enemy placements, as you'll probably see if you're familiar with the game. It changes up weapon stats and things and spells. You know, just sort of, a way for someone who has played Dark Souls quite a bit to sort of re-experience it from a fresh angle. Yeah, so, you know, not specifically, I'm not doing this specifically because, like, the remaster is coming out, and it is coming out soon. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna get it or not. It just doesn't really seem like, holy shit, this is really worth my money and worth my time, and oh, it's gonna be this fresh new experience of playing through Dark Souls again. You know, compared to something like this, which changes up, you know, the game. Not in like a major, wow, this is a whole new Dark Souls, but, you know, it makes it more fresh than I think the remaster edition would. The only thing that kind of tempted me was getting it for the Switch, just because of the sort of novelty of being able to play it on a portable console for the first time. That's kind of interesting, but I don't know if it's like 40 bucks interesting. Hard to say, really. Yeah. It was, I mean, you know, it's like, what did you really expect from the remaster? It is pretty much what a remaster is. It's not a remake, which would be a lot cooler. It's just, you know, sort of an HD bump in textures and things like that, but even then, you can sort of get the same thing just on the PC version already, so anyways. So this week on the Exploring series, of course, I had two videos come out. We had the regular scheduled one, the Children of Loki, I believe. Which, yeah, seemed decently popular. You know, there are cool aspects of the mythology that have been borrowed all over the place in pop culture. You got Fenrir and, you know, the giant wolf. That's been, I mean, even in here you have like Sif. The giant wolves are just cool. Jormungand, the giant snake that circles the world, that's pretty cool. So yeah, it was decently popular, and it was a fine video, so it's all good. Damn it. But then we had the other video, which was on the Teletubbies. So that one really blew up at the start. Got a lot of views early on the first day, which was like it was Easter, so it was pretty surprising how many people watched it. But yeah, and I'd seen people really liked it, which is good. I was not, you know, when I was working on it, I was editing it, I was like, this is either the best thing I've made or the worst thing I've made. I really have no idea. Like, I thought it was kind of funny, but, you know, I just kind of like that sort of absurdity. Why was that not a backstab? Now I'm gonna get smacked. Now I'm dead. So dead. Oh yeah, that ain't fun, is it? Fuck. Would you just die? Yeah, see? I don't have resin. Fuck. I'll talk in a second. I'll talk in a second. Hold on. I need you to swing. What was I talking about? Right, yeah, so it was definitely well received. I've noticed, though, that the further we get away from April 1st, the worse reception that it gets. Like, I started to get more comments like, this is bullshit, this is ridiculous, you're just making all these leaps, and, you know, this doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, that's the joke. That is the joke. Now, the biggest problem with Teletubbies video, of course, is that I lost my dispute for the copyright claim. They decided that my argument was not strong enough, and they said, fuck you. Now, the thing is, though, there is absolutely no incentive for them to say, oh, you know what, you're right. You do have a good claim to this money that we could easily take from you. You should have this money. Take the money, please. We don't want the money. You should take the money. There's no incentive for them to do that. Because they, as, you know, the copyright holders, they can just say, nah. Parody? Nah. Fuck you. It's our money. And if I'm like, well, I think a court would side with me, you know, if I think that, which I probably don't, but okay. If I did really think that, I would have to go to court. That would be the only way that this would be settled. Fuck. Because I can dispute it again. I can be like, no, I really think they're wrong. And it's like, what is the point of that? They're not going to be like, oh, you know what? We were wrong. No, all they're going to do at that point is just be like, all right, you're being a fucking nuisance. Take the video down or you're going to court. Like, literally, that's what happens. If you lose the second dispute, they can just say, take the video down. We don't want it. And at that point, if I really, really disagree, then I have to go to court. Which is not nearly worth the effort at that point. I mean, unless you're talking about a video that's making like millions and millions of views, then maybe. But otherwise, that is not worth the trouble. Now, they might not actually go to court, but if they think they'll win, of course they'll, like, what, it's just, well, I don't know. It's just, there's no reason that they would ever just be like, oh yeah, you're right, take the money. That's just not how it works. So, bottom line, don't get the copyright claim in the first place if you, care about money. Now, the great thing is, I actually did not get a copyright claim for the Bloodborne video, which was my original concern. I was like, this whole video is filled with video game footage, you know, and my, like, on this channel, like, I get copyright claim things all the time. I get notifications all the time, like, oh, this Kirby video, or whatever, is copyright, and you can't make money, but they'll make money off of your videos, don't worry. And video games are, I thought, tricky, but no, Bloodborne was great. I did very well with that video. What is with the rolls? That roll did not seem like how Dark Souls roll should be. Huh. Well, I lost a lot of souls, but whatever. So I was very happy with the Bloodborne video. The claim never even came up. I didn't have to do anything. Maybe because FromSoft or whoever's in charge of that isn't a bunch of dickweeds. But the people that own Teletubbies, definitely dickweeds. Who would have thought? So yeah, there's not really a damn thing I can do about it. They get to completely reap the rewards of my efforts. And that's pretty much the end of the story. Now, you know, I do still get, like, the subscribers and the attention, and people are like, oh, this channel is good, I'm gonna watch more videos. And then, you know, hopefully they watch other videos and I can collect from that. But it's still... It's just the fucking nature of YouTube, man. It's just how it is. It's just really funny because it's like, okay, you know, pretend you're working at a normal job. You finish a project that took you, like, you know, a month. And then your boss comes in and is like, yeah, actually, you know what? You're not getting paid for any of that work you did. We're giving it to this other company that did absolutely nothing. They did zero effort whatsoever. Because the copyright holder for Teletubbies is not like the production company. It is not the people that made Teletubbies. They just own the rights to it. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. So, yeah, that's all good. You know, it's spilt milk, so there's nothing you can do about it. No point really crying. But yeah, you know, to all those kids out there that want to get into the YouTube business, it's not always peachy keen. But I guess that's pretty much any business. Any job has its problems. Anyways, moving on. So this week I worked on the Saga of the Volsungs, which yeah, a few months ago I would have had absolutely no idea what the hell that was. And now I know the whole story. So, that's education. Saga of the Volsungs is one of the Icelandic sagas. So basically, you know, it's sort of like Beowulf, I guess. This epic tale that has been passed down through generations and was apparently a common story back in the day. And so the best full piece of literature that we have related to it is called the Saga of the Volsungs. You know, written hundreds of years ago, and it's it's interesting. It's a little muddled. while I was reading it and, you know, doing the writing and researching it, there was a moment literally where I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? There's a part in the story, right, where Sigurd meets Brynhild. You know, his love. And he, like, you know, goes into this castle and he finds her, like, wrapped in chainmail and she can't even breathe, and so he cuts her out of the chainmail, and, you know, they profess their love for one another, blah, 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 blah. And then the next chapter is him, like, just wandering around, like, throughout the world. It talks about all his great deeds and how everyone knew of Sigurd and stuff like that, and he's just wandering the land. And then he goes to this other castle, and he sees Brynhild there, and it pretty much is like he never met her. Like, he has no idea who Brynhild is, and he's just like, who is this wonderful woman, blah, 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 who's Brynhild? And it talks about their first meeting, and it's just like, what the fuck happened? You just met last chapter. Yeah, and I still have no idea. I don't know. I just completely skipped that second meeting in the video. I'm just like, I don't know. If someone wants to explain to me how this makes sense, feel free. I have no fucking clue what's happening. And yeah, the story has a lot of, like, just petty, like, betrayal, revenge, murder. It's like, sometimes it's like if Game of Thrones was written by retarded people. I don't know. It just seems so odd, some things. And I mean, that's just, you know, the culture, and that's what they talked about, and blah, blah, blah. But, and then, you know, of course, there's the good old incest where, this girl, like, trades bodies with the form of a witch. And then she has a kid with her brother. And it's like, well, I guess if she's in the body of a completely different person, is it really incestuous? There's no, like, DNA, but they claim it's like it's the son of two Volsungs. But if there's no DNA, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know the fantasy science of incestuous relationships. Anyways, and the big thing that everyone focuses on and knows about it is, like, is Sigurd killing the dragon, which I thought was always pronounced Fafnir, but then Jackson Crawford pronounces it as Fufnir, so that's what I went with. I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit about that, but whatever. The, like, internet dictionaries say it's pronounced Favnir, with, like, a V sound, which, okay. Anyways, so they focus on him killing Fufnir, the dragon. That literally is like a page. It's like a page. Not, like, barely a page. And the interesting thing is, Tolkien, like, directly lifted it for the Tale of Turin Turambar. When he kills, fuck. Gosh, so many crazy names. When Turin kills the big dragon that reveals to him that, you know, he had an incestuous relationship or whatever with his sister. Again, you know, there's a lot of... Tolkien was definitely inspired by the whole thing. But, you know, Turin, like, waits in a ditch and then stabs him in the heart from underneath. That is exactly what Sigurd does to Fofnir. He, like, digs a ditch, waits in it, and then he stabs him in the heart when he passes over it. It's the exact same thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Tolkien apparently did, like, a retelling or rewriting of the saga. I didn't read it, but yeah, he definitely was a big fan. Anyways, I don't know. There was like 30 billion names in that story, in the whole saga, and there's all these little events, and there's these different wars, and like every kid in the Volsung family goes off to war, and they've all got kids, and the kids die, and everyone dies, and it's just like, oh god. So I don't know how good of a video it is. I really have no idea. I did the best that I can do. That's all I can do. Hopefully, some people enjoy it. Fuck! Oh, get slammed. Then next week I'm working on Ragnarok, which is tentatively the final video in the series. It all comes to a big climactic end with Ragnarok. So that should be fun. Then I still have not exactly decided the order and timing of things, but there's going to be the Ragnarok video, there's going to be a Norse Q&A, there's going to be a Middle-earth video, probably on Rohan. I have to look over it and see if that's really the best thing that I want to do, but I want to do a Middle-earth video because we're not quite done with that. And then there's going to be the polls to decide the next series, and possibly the God of War Norse video. So there's a lot of there's a lot of things happening, and I need to decide if all of those things are going to be like a week, or if I'm going to intermix the polls in there at some point. I don't know. But that's pretty much what's happening. The Norse, definitely the shortest. See ya. Definitely the shortest series so far. But there's really like... You know, like, one of the problems that I had doing the Elder Scrolls series, and part of the reason I actually liked it, was sort of this fragmented nature, and this sort of inherent bias, and, like, people would just, like, mention an event, and there really wouldn't be that much info about it. You would just sort of have to find some other in-game text talking about it, and then, you know, you probably wouldn't get the full story of it and things like that. Norse mythology sort of takes that times 1,000, because we've lost so much of the mythology. Just we you know, these texts that we're using as primary sources are hundreds of years old, and we only have like a few of them. And so all the time in like the Prose Edda, he'll mention some character or some event. Ow. And we have no record whatsoever of this character or event. Like, the only info we have is from like this one little tale. But it's like, you know, the Norse people, god damn it, you know, the Norse people told more stories than just this one story. Tyr. You know, Tyr features prominently in the Binding of Fenrir. And supposedly, you know, he's known as a warrior god of justice and valor and things like that. And then, you know, all we have to go on to believe that is just Snorri saying that he's a warrior god of valor and justice. And, you know, there has to have been more stories about him. And then there are the goddesses and stuff like that are literally mentioned once. And it's like, no, they didn't make up this goddess just to fill in a name. Like, there's more to this. This isn't gonna end well. And so it reminds me of Cthulhu Mythos, where people are like, oh, can you do a video about God. I can't even remember the names off the top of my head, but like, you know, some of the children of like Cthulhu or something like that, or Shub-Niggurath or something like that, you know, that are mentioned like once in one story. It's like, oh man, you know, people are like, oh, I really want to learn more about this entity, you know, this son of Azathoth or whatever. Oh, he should do a video about that and teach me all about it. It's like, no, you fucking just read everything about it. That's it. Done. Like that, like, because that's the easiest thing to do when you're writing, is just name drop. Like, just, oh, here's this entity. He is the son of this. And it's like, because that, you know, adds some sort of mystery to your stories. Like, oh, and to the mythos, people are like, oh, you know, there's all these entities, and, you know, who knows what they've all done. Oh, it's very interesting. But then people are like, they just assume that I have some Hitchhiker's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos, and I can just tell you everything about everything. It's like, just make it up. Make up your own shit. And so, yeah, Norse mythology is kind of like that. And so there's a lot of, like, name drops and references, but not a whole lot of actual stories or facts. And so, yeah, I just sort of have to ignore all these people. That's that's what I've come to learn, really, about YouTubing. Specifically with what I do, as far as making lore videos and stuff like that, is I know better. I know what deserves to be a video and what cannot be a video. I know what should be a series and what really couldn't be a good series. And, oh, great. And other people don't. Now, that's not like I don't like suggestions. I love suggestions. If it wasn't for suggestions, I wouldn't have the channel. Because originally, I did not think about going beyond the Cthulhu Mythos until I got a suggestion saying, hey, you should do videos about, like, Lord of the Rings. So, thanks to that guy. God damn. Fuck you, man. This situation's getting worse. It's just, I know my channel, I know my content, and I know at this point what I think would make for a good series or not. And so I had a discussion on the Discord the other day about the SCP universe. This guy really wants me to make a series about the SCP universe and the Foundation and all that. And, I mean, if you guys have followed the channel for a while, you probably know I'm a pretty big fan of the SCP universe. I discovered it years ago. It freaked me the fuck out because I thought it was all real shit, and I was like, oh my god, what is going on? But once once I learned, you know, what exactly it was, yeah, I really got into it and read pretty much every single one of the first 1,000 or so. And so, yeah, I really like a lot of the stuff that the universe does, that writers have done for it. I did that Numenera campaign that was based around SCP stuff. That was really interesting. Yeah, so I'm a fan. That doesn't mean I think it's gonna make for a good series. And the problem is, there is no canon. There is no canon. As far as I understand, there is no canon. Now, people have accepted elements and certain tropes and writing formats and things like that. They've accepted it, for the most part, to be like a headcanon. As in, the majority of writers believe the Foundation operates in a certain way, and they conform to it. Which you might say, well, that's canon. Not exactly, though. It's kind of like the Cthulhu mythos. It's really the best analogy. You know, the Cthulhu mythos doesn't really have a canon either. And I know I talked about this quite a bit when I was doing the whole Cthulhu mythos thing. And really, the only true canon that you can get for the Cthulhu mythos is Lovecraft's work. That's really sort of it. You know, if there is something just commonly accepted to be true about the Cthulhu mythos, it is anything that Lovecraft wrote about it. He is the creator of it to an extent. Now, whether or not that's completely true, it's hard to say, because no one owns the Cthulhu mythos. It's not like Star Wars, where, you know, Disney decides what is canon and what is not canon. And so at the end of the day, I guess, it does come down to whatever people accept as canon. I mean, that's a big struggle for me in general with a lot of stuff, is the idea of canonicity. God damn it. And, you know, I did the Cthulhu mythos. And I think people enjoyed that series. And I'm okay with it because it does have a certain degree, to me, of canonicity. Now, there are definitely times within that series, plenty of times, that I mention things not written by Lovecraft. And I spouted them, for the most part, as if they were just canon facts. But the SCP universe is just so much murkier to me. Because you know, like I said, for Cthulhu mythos, what Lovecraft wrote is considered canon. I don't know exactly what is considered canon within the universe, the SCP universe. Because it's just one of those things, it's just meant to be murky. By design, it's meant to be murky. You know, like, where do they get all the D-class from? You know, where did the D-class come from? How can the Foundation afford all this? How, you know, who replaces the, like, even the Foundation, like, the start of the Foundation itself. No one has accepted a canon answer to that. That's the issue. If I wanted to talk about the start of the Foundation, I would literally have to read a dozen different, like, articles. Like, a dozen different attempts for people to explain the start of the Foundation. There is no accepted canon answer for that. And that just doesn't sit well with me. Because that seems like a pretty important thing. Now, as a fan, I think it's awesome. You know, as a fan, it's like, oh, that's really cool. You know, you get to decide what you think is canon. That just doesn't work for me from a lore creator, video creator's point of view. Just doesn't. So yeah, I mean, there are series that I think work well, and there are series that don't work well, and there are series that are meant to be lengthy, and there's a lot to say, like the Elder Scrolls. There are series like Norse where there isn't much to say. I mean, the stuff that we do have for Norse mythology is very interesting, but there isn't that much. Anyways, I talked about this for, my God, 35 minutes. Why didn't someone stop me? Jesus. All right. Anyways, this week on this channel, we had Far Cry 5, of course, which has this terrible audio desyncing problem with the game audio. I believe, I don't know exactly for sure, obviously, but I believe the problem is caused from leaving OBS open for too long. I feel like I've had this problem in the past. I'm not exactly sure, but I think if I leave OBS just open for like 3 days, that problem comes up if I don't like close it and reopen it. I think. Now that could be a big problem for like my other series, like Final Fantasy. I don't know, because some of the Final Fantasy games, I feel like I left OBS open for like a week. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see about that. But there should only be like 1 or maybe 2 more videos of Far Cry 5 that have that problem, and then it's back to being good. God damn it. God damn it. But yeah, it's always a bummer. We had Final Fantasy VII, of course, which is swimming along. We got plenty more of that on the way. It's a pretty lengthy game. And then we go into Final Fantasy VIII, and then Final Fantasy IX, and then 10, and then 12, and then 13, 15. Plenty of Final Fantasy. It ensures that every day you'll have a new video. Without fail. Unless I forget. Sometimes that happens. We also had Roll Mangg, of course, and Skyrim VR. One of those little surprise videos I like to throw out there. The Skyrim VR came out on, like, Monday? I think? Monday evening? Or maybe it was Tuesday evening. I don't remember. Anyways, it came out this week. And when I first fired it up, I was like, alright, it's kind of interesting. It makes me a little sick, but it's interesting. But then, as I got more tolerant, and I started the modding process, because you know I love mods, it became far more interesting. And so yeah, now I'm really, really into it. I would have done it for Hanging with Mangg today, but I have to record it through the Rift microphone, and it's just shit. It's just shit. But yes, it's fantastic. My legs are completely sore. Just completely. And I actually haven't done VR in a while. It had been sitting there for a while. And so every time I come back to VR, it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. But yeah, Skyrim VR is definitely the most time I've spent with a game, aside from like Longbow, just because I enjoyed Longbow a lot. But that's not like a real game. This is a real game. Real game. So yeah, so Skyrim VR finally convinced me to actually have a VR party for my friends. Because my friends, you know, a few of them have never experienced proper VR. And so I just always held off doing a party because I don't know, I just don't have the right room space for it and things like that. But Skyrim VR, I was like, I gotta show this to people. I gotta show off VR. It's getting hot. Ready Player One came out. It's all good. So we're gonna have a VR party. I'm gonna set it up in a different room for that day. Proper, like, you know, a TV to view on and a couch and all sorts of stuff. God damn it. Shit. So that should be good. But yeah. You know, I made a lot of jokes about sort of immersion. Because it's just... I think if you did like a Control F on any like thread on the Skyrim VR subreddit, immersion would be the most found word. People just love discussing it. But yeah, I mean, there is a big difference, man. There's just a big difference from playing on your monitor or on your TV with a controller and walking around Whiterun or walking through a dungeon and actually being inside of that dungeon. There's a big difference between pressing a button on your mouse to shoot an arrow into some Draugr's face and literally pulling your hand back and pulling that arrow, you know, back on the bow and letting it go while you're physically crouching in real life so you can sneak up to him. Like, it's just a big difference. And the biggest problem with VR is that you can't properly explain it to somebody. It's got to be experienced. So that's, you know, VR parties have to happen. If you have a VR headset and you got the whole setup, you owe it to other people. Let them experience it. Well, the other big problem with VR, of course, is the price. The price wall, the barrier to entry. But there's not much I can do about that. There is a Samsung headset that a lot of people are talking about now. The Odyssey. The Samsung Odyssey. This has the same, like, lenses and resolution specs as the upcoming Vive Pro, which is a lot better. It's like 40% better or something like that than what we got now. So it's a lot better, and it's only like $400. And you don't even have to have, like, you don't have to set up sensors on your walls, because it has inside-out tracking. So all the cameras are on the headset itself. So it's a lot more portable. Like, if you have a powerful laptop, you can just plug it in anywhere and have room scale tracking. Because it has, you know, it has the controllers and everything. Now, I've heard downsides. The downside is the tracking is not as good as, say, the Vive for the controllers. I've heard the headset is a little heavier due to having the cameras built onto it. And it doesn't have access to the Oculus exclusive games, which there are some good ones. But I think there's probably workarounds for that. But I think if I didn't have VR right now, I'd be pretty tempted by the Odyssey. It'd be one of those things where I'd really like to test it out first. Which probably wouldn't be feasible, so I'd probably just pull the plug, but... I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and having that higher resolution is a big plus. So that's something to think about. The Vive Pro is, of course, compelling, just due to its specs. But the big problem with the Vive Pro is the massive, massive price point. $800 just for the headset. Just for the headset. If you want the controllers and the sensors, you know, assuming you don't have a headset already, you would need to spend like $1,300 or something. It's something ridiculous. So, yeah, they say that this is marketed towards absolute enthusiasts only, but come the fuck on. But, you know, you can get the Odyssey for $400 at this point, which, yeah, it's still pretty expensive, but I think it's getting a lot more affordable with every passing year. And getting a lot better. So, pretty exciting stuff. Unfortunately, you know, I traded away, or I sold my Vive to my brother when I got the Rift. And I'm happy with the Rift. I certainly am. It's a great little VR system. But with the way the Vive Pro pricing is, if I still had a Vive and the controllers and the sensors, I may have considered getting a Vive Pro. Oh, I'm so dead. As it stands, though, I don't know. It seems like I'm going to be sticking with the Rift for quite a while. Maybe Oculus will put out a new headset soon, like next year. We definitely are in need of a resolution bump, though. Like, that's the thing. It's got to keep going. But, you know, when you increase the resolution of the lenses and stuff, it's definitely murder on your system. You have to have some really high-end systems. And right now, I'm pretty comfortable with my system. I can run just about anything at all good stuff. But VR pushes it. Skyrim VR runs brilliantly. Out of the box, like, if you can run VR at all, you can easily run Skyrim VR. No problem. And even with all the mods I have installed, the highest, like, 4K textures on everything, and weather mods, and all that shit, it still runs great. I think that's just because Skyrim is really old. Yeah, I'm happy about that it runs so well. But yeah, like, VR is something that I'm absolutely willing to upgrade my computer for. But the $1,300 for the Vive Pro, no one is happy with that price. All right. Well, now that we're 50 minutes into this fucking video, what else do I need to talk about? All right. So we're roll manging. I guess I'll summarize pretty quickly here. So basically, it came down to... I gave Thomas and Phil some tasks that I wanted them to do. And then I had the big job, the baseball bat job, that I had planned out. And so that was sort of my operation, and I gave them their operations that they could handle. So my operation, the baseball bat, went fucking swimmingly. It went perfect. It could not have gone better. Which is great. Fuck. Dead again. Yeah. Ziggy was very impressed with my plan. Pretty much, yeah, it went off without a hitch. We had one guy, like, when we knocked in the door, the guy wasn't completely unconscious, so Thomas, like, punched him in the forehead on the ground to knock him out. And when he did that, apparently there was, like, some other resident, like, poking his head in, seeing what the commotion was. And so I had to do a fast talk to get him out of there, and it apparently worked. I mean, we got out of there. That's the end result. So it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Normally plans do not go that well, but I think Ziggy really had to give it to me for just... for going to those efforts to come up with a good plan. It was not a fly by the seat of your pants sort of operation. This was calculated, and so he wanted to reward that kind of careful thinking. So yeah, we got in, we got the bat, we got out. We even walked past some cops on the way out. But they didn't stop us, and we went on, and all was well. We got out of Manhattan, we dumped the guy off somewhere in the Bronx, and we got the bat. So, the two operations that they were in charge of. The first one was before the baseball bat job, and that was to get us some passes. We needed 3 passes to get into Manhattan. Like orange passes that said that we worked in Manhattan. Otherwise, we would be like arrested immediately. So I just told them, you know, find some passes, get them in my hands. You know, we need 3 orange ones. So they ended up tracking down these passes. They ended up making this deal with some shady figure who told him to meet him in a warehouse at night or something like that. And so they go there. Thomas goes into the warehouse. Phil's waiting in the car outside. And basically, he's like in the middle of this warehouse. There's like a spotlight on him. He can't see anybody, but he hears them talking to him. And they're like, we have the passes. And we'll give them to you for 1,000 new yen. Plus, you have to spend an hour with the octopus. Ow! So apparently the octopus was like this really creepy, really wealthy, perverted guy. And he apparently took a liking to Thomas's character. And so this gang or whatever followed the wishes of the octopus. And so they were willing to only take 1,000 for these passes, but you had to spend an hour with the octopus doing something. Fuck, 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 no! God damn it. I'm thinking about the octopus. So Thomas, of course, whose character's backstory actually involves him escaping from sexual servitude, declines the offer. And so they're like, look, man, we'll give the passes to you for free. For free. But you have to spend an hour with the octopus. And he's just like, no deal. And he's like, all right. 3,000 new yen then. And I was like, oh, 3,000, that's an acceptable price for what we're gonna, you know. They have no other leads for getting passes. We need the passes. So I'm not there, so I'm hoping he'll just say yes. He says no. He says 2,000 new yen. And so apparently he had declined them 3 times. That was it. And so some guy rushed out and like stunned him with a taser. And so then trouble ensued. A firefight ensued. Phil like crashed his car into the warehouse. And yeah, basically a lot of trouble ensued. Thomas almost died. I think he actually had to roll to see if he stayed alive. He did, barely. They ended up killing the octopus, who Ziggy told me later is like the wealthiest character we've encountered so far. We could have like gotten 100 grand out of him if we had threatened his life enough, because he was that wealthy. But no, they just shot him. They got the passes, but it was a complete shit show. Like, just blood and dead bodies everywhere. It was horrible. And Thomas almost died. So that was good. Alright, but we got the passes. We did the baseball bat job. It went perfectly. I was very happy. So things were starting to settle down. I went and I got my reconstructive surgery so that I could, you know, look like a different person that could run for mayor. So that was all good. Meanwhile, I told Thomas, I'm like, all right, take the baseball bat, take it to the leader of the Yankees gang, and tell him, you know, that we want to form like an alliance in this coming political election season. And he's like, okay. And then, so I went off to get my reconstructive surgery, which takes like 10 hours. And he's sitting there, not sure how to get in contact with the leader of this gang. So that was his goal, was to get in contact with the leader of this gang. And so he went to Phil for assistance, and they decided that the only way they could really find out is talking to this one character that Phil knows. But the problem is, Phil already owed that character a favor. And so they decided they needed to complete that favor first. The favor was to kill this mutant man. This guy that's part of the mutant gang named Frogman Joe. So he pretty much looks like a deep one. And so they needed to kill Frogman Joe. That was it. That was the extent of the favor. Like how they did it, where they did it, when they did it, didn't matter. Just kill Frogman Joe. Now, this should be real freaking simple, alright? Real simple. Because they even knew the club that he, like, frequented. He was there, like, every day. So, it's real simple. You just, like, wait for him to come out of the club, you shoot him, you drive away. Done. Very simple job. You could do this in, like, 20 minutes. But no, that's not how they did it. And, yeah, part of me is, like, agonizing at how foolish these two people can be playing a game. But then part of me just sends them to do these tasks just for the hilarity. So they go to the club. They go inside the club. And it's like a real, like, seedy, like, mutant club. Like, it's just pretty much a shithole. So they go in there. They spot Frogman Joe. And their plan is to pay a stripper to take him into one of the curtained VIP rooms. And when they're in there, after they're done, the stripper leaves, Frogman Joe stays behind. They go in and they murder him. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, you're basing this entire thing on the fact that he'll just go along with this idea that some random stripper, somebody else paid for him. Somebody else paid for Frogman Joe to get a VIP show. and you're hoping that he'll be the first, he'll stick around after the stripper leaves. Because it wasn't, their plan wasn't during the show they'll bust in, tell the stripper to leave, and then they'll kill him. That was not their plan. Their plan was to wait for him to, the show to finish, and hope that the stripper leaves first. So, of course, Ziggy is a kind DM, and so yeah, it all went, for the most part, as they planned. Frogman Joe went along with it. He went into the VIP booth. The show occurred. It took like an hour. They waited around for an hour. The stripper did leave first, and they walked in just as Frogman Joe was about to walk out, and they killed him. But, of course, they caused a bit of a commotion, because, you know, that's what they do. And so they tried to slip out, like, the back, but the back didn't go anywhere. And so, like, the bartender spotted them and pulled out, like, a shotgun, and so shots were fired, and, like, the whole club was evacuated, and, yeah, it was pretty messy. Once again, they can do nothing quietly. Nothing peacefully, nothing easily. Everything is just, I don't know, firefight! But they killed Frogman Joe. So, yeah, next time they'll get the bat, hopefully, to the guy. We'll form this mayor gang alliance. I'm going to officially start my campaign. There's going to be press conferences. Then I have to do all the shady stuff. So the bots are going to be released on the social networks. They're going to do all their work. I'm going to be doing just rallies all over the town. We're going to try to get into the, we're going to try to bribe some media personnel, you know, try to get into the media. We're going to do some voter intimidation. All sorts of good stuff is going to happen. And, cause I only have like a month and a half to do a full campaign to try and, win this election. Now, the plan is that the polling numbers are not going to favor me entirely. It's probably still going to go in favor of the existing mayor. Until like 3 days before the election, we're going to anonymously leak these pictures of him with a prostitute, and his numbers are just going to plummet before he can recover. The election's going to occur, and I'm going to win. That's the idea. That's the idea. And if I don't win, well, then we're just going to assassinate whoever does win. So that should be fun. Yeah. We're over an hour now, so I guess that's about it. I did see Ready Player One this week. I was a big fan of the book. I really like the book. You know, it's not... A lot of people criticize the book for being, like, really shallow and stuff. It's like, not every book is fucking Billy Shakespeare, alright? It's just... You know, it's filled with pop culture references, and it's got this light plot, and... It was just a fun book. That's what I thought, and I liked the book. The problem with the movie... I mean, I liked the movie. I did like the movie, and I think it's gonna interest a lot of people in the future of virtual reality and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with the movie is it takes away a lot of the stuff that I like about the book. The book, you know, is just obsessed with 80s culture. Just obsessed with 80s culture. And I think if you watch the movie, I don't know if you really get that out of the movie. I don't know if you get an obsession with 80s culture out of the movie. The movie focuses a lot on, like, James Halliday's life. And, like, his failure to romance a girl, and his partnership with his best friend and stuff. It's just like, you know, I want to hear about how much he liked... I don't even remember. I haven't read the book in a while, but his obsession with, like, you know, John Hughes movies and you know, stuff like that. They changed, like, all the challenges to get the keys and stuff. part of that I understand, part of it bums me out. It's like, you know, I knew there wouldn't be, they wouldn't recreate, like, War Games and have him do it line for line in Matthew Broderick's role or something like that. Like, I knew that wouldn't happen. It's just, there are things in the book that I really wanted to see on screen, and we didn't get a lot of it. Like, Wade's obsession with pop culture and, like, the lengths that he went to study all these things, like all the things that he watched and read and played, that didn't really completely come across in the movie. Like, the movie felt kind of like the Cliff Notes version of the book. Like, everything was so rushed. Everything was so rushed. You miss out on a lot of those nice, cool little details that made the book really fun. To focus more on the plot, which, I mean, the plot is not the best part of Ready Player One. So, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed sitting there and seeing all the references that they did put in there, like the little Easter eggs, you know, hidden all over the place. The final huge climactic battle, you know, with all these different characters on screen and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. Having the Iron Giant in there, and like Master Chief from Halo, and the Overwatch characters, and Chucky, and the DeLorean, and all these kind of things on screen that you really would never expect to see on screen. That was pretty cool. Overall, yeah, I like the movie, but as many people have said throughout history, not as good as the book. Alright. So that about wraps us up for today. Check out the Saga of the Volsungs video tomorrow if you want some little bit of Game of Thrones-ish in your life. We got more Far Cry 5, Final Fantasy 7, and who knows what else in the coming week. But my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I will see you fine folks next week.